So I'm going to be covering how measurement and verification works in CTV. And it's a little bit different than, actually it's a lot different than how it's done in desktop and mobile. And the main reason is, if you remember from my previous video, that you can't run JavaScript or any type of code directly on a CTV device from a measurement or verification vendor. So instead, what we have is VAST, or Video Ad Serving Template. And a VAST tag is where the creative and all of the pixels and everything related to the creative itself, or the ad, is held. So all of that data, all of that information is held within a VAST tag. And generally, it is uploaded into a DSP. And if you remember, that's demand-side platform. So a measurement and verification vendor would work with a DSP to be able to wrap a VAST tag with their own wrapper, right? A VAST wrapper. And a VAST wrapper, the way it works is a lot like, if you remember in math, you remember PEMDAS. You don't need to remember it, that's fine. But the P stands for parentheses. That's the first thing you do before you get to exponents, multiplication, and everything else. So in this example, this isn't really what a VAST tag looks like, but just for simplicity's sake, this is very much like what a VAST wrapper works like. So you would unwrap wrapper 1, right? And then that gets used, all of its pixels fire, everything happens there. And then you get into wrapper 2, same thing. And these are generally different vendors measuring things or using wrappers for their own purposes. Could be for reporting, it could be for measurement and verification and other things. And then you can go down, traverse several layers of wrappers before you actually make it to the media file itself, which is where the creative is held, as an MP4 file. So as all of these wrappers fire off, you get all of the events and pixels and everything for all of the different vendors available in the ad tech space. Now, looking at what we have access to when this happens, right? You have quartiles, so you have first quartile, the impression event, all the way down to the completes. You have the IP address, but really what you have access to in general is pretty limited. So for measurement, there's a couple things or verification, there's a couple of things you can do to look for IVT, or invalid traffic. One is you can have a lookup on all of your IPs that you consider to be bot traffic, and you can deny service or deny the media file to the downstream partners. Or just in general, if you know that there's not going to be a match for measurement and verification on your level, so once you unwrap everything, you can, instead of sending back the original media file, what you can return is just an empty VAST, right? So in what you end up doing in this case is you check, you say this is bot traffic, this is invalid traffic, this is some place that my brand that's related to me as a measurement and verification vendor doesn't want to serve. What we can do is send an empty VAST. The issue with this particular implementation is you've made it now all the way to the point of unwrapping, and you've wasted a bid response that could have been filled with another bid response down by the DSP and SSP level. So you've traversed all the way up to the ad server or SSAI and determined that you don't want to fill there anymore. And now another bid, you have an opportunity cost for the publisher, so the publisher ends up losing money there because they didn't have a bid that would have been valid. So what's going to come in the future? So I hinted at this earlier. So in the future, what we're going to have is, actually we have it available now, we just need more people to implement it. And that is OM SDK. And there's a new version out that's specific for CTV, right? So this OM SDK has been around for a long time, and it's fully adopted in mobile, right? So a lot of people, I think it's 95% coverage in mobile apps for OM SDK. But for CTV, it hasn't really taken hold yet. But what it's going to be able to do is, so you use the Open Measurement SDK, install it on a CTV device like a Samsung TV, LG TV, etc., or on an app, right? Like if you have a Netflix or something like that, you can install it. And what it's going to do is it's going to allow for viewability to be tracked. It's going to verify that the television is actually on and that there's somebody, well, not necessarily that there's somebody there yet, but at least the TV's on and the ad can play. For those of you that don't know, there was an issue a couple years ago where the TV would turn off, but the HDMI port for a dongle didn't realize that the TV was off, so it kept playing the content and the ads. And that's a big problem, right? The ads think that they're playing, they're firing their impressions, they're generating revenue, but nobody has the chance to see the ad. That issue is only relevant for dongles. If you have a Samsung TV or an LG TV or Vizio TV, any type of actual television device, you don't have the TV on-off problem because it's only related to the HDMI cable not knowing whether or not the device is on or not, and not telling that to the dongled device. So just to close, one last thing that OM SDK is going to enable, and that is user engagement or attention. So timestamps can be sent from the app or television to say that the user is interacting or engaging. Did they open a menu? Did they close a menu? Did they change the channel? Did they click the "Are you still watching" button? So all of those things will give us CTV attention for the first time ever. It doesn't exist today. And you saw earlier in the VASTag example why it doesn't. You don't really have a connection to the user or the TV or the experience. You just have IP addresses and quartiles giving you a proxy to measurement and verification in CTV, but really it's not as strong as it will be when we get to OM SDK. So hopefully more on that soon as we get more and more publishers implementing it. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out or post it in the comments. Thank you.